If you're performing an exorcism, you need an old priest and a young priest. If you want a must-watch college football game, you need a young QB and an old QB. Got a couple of those happening Saturday night. Welcome to your college football preview presented by Prize Picks. Ari Wasserman. I know Shedeur Sanders isn't super old, but he's played a lot of college football. He's a junior. He's playing as Dylan Raiola, a true freshman at Nebraska, who is making only his second start. And then meanwhile, across the country, we've got Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee, who's making start number 3 for the Vols because he started the bowl game last year against Grayson McCall, who was a 4-year starter at Coastal Carolina and is now playing his final season at NC State. So we got the old heads against the young hot shots. Ari, who you got?
If I had to, am I taking them collectively here? Because I'm always going to go young. I'm always going to go young.
I think that would be interesting. Obviously, one young guy can win and one old guy can win. But do you think there's a particular group that has an advantage here?
I think that. Well, I mean, if you had to, let me just ask you this. But I do think one young guy is going to win and one old guy is going to win this weekend.
Okay,
and I think you know which games I'm talking about here. But. Oh, wait, no, that's wrong. They're both young. They're both going to win.
I was going to say.
Yeah,
I thought you were going with the young guns.
Yeah, no, you're right. You caught me. I really, really like all 4 quarterbacks we're talking about here. But, part of the reason why I get so excited, Andy, and maybe people are accusing me of going overboard with Dylan Raiola, is that I want to be able to recognize when someone hits early. And in my experience covering college football, the truly special players, you see it right out of the gate. And both of the young guns in this video have shown immense potential, great flashes, and you can almost visualize what they're going to be in 2 or 3 years from now, right out of the gate. The special players don't wait around for 2 years and then all of a sudden show up most of the time, especially when they're playing. And both of these guys have it. So I am all about them, and I think they're maybe 2 of the best young players in the entire sport.
So let's talk about these guys from a Prize Picks perspective. If you're not playing Prize Picks already, best daily fantasy game in America. Download the app. Use the code STAPLES. You play $5. You get $50 instantly. That's win or lose. And the way it works is you're picking squares. So, if you let's say Dylan Raiola, 245.5 passing yards. Will he throw for more than that or less than that against Colorado? It's that easy. You just pick more or less. You pick that square, you pick another square, and you're ready to go. Now, you can pick more than 2 squares as well, and the more squares you pick, the higher the potential payout. So let's talk about some of these numbers because Dylan Raiola, 245.5 pass yards. The one I think is interesting for Raiola because I think he's pretty athletic. So he's got a 0.5 rushing plus receiving touchdowns. And that's a demon square, which means it's a higher potential payout. The goblin square is the easier one. The demon is the more difficult one. I could see Raiola running for a touchdown here.
I mean, you have heard the Patrick Mahomes comps, and they came from people that weren't me. So, I mean, if he is going to play that way, you saw that sneaky, sidearm throw last week that was right on the money, and wearing the same number, the same similar body type. Like you can picture him scampering in for a rushing score in this game, can't you? Can't you just almost see it?
I can. Now, the one thing I can also see, there's only one of these quarterbacks that we're talking about that I can see starting for an NFL team next year, and that's Shedeur Sanders. Like, you watch him throw the ball, it is a thing of beauty. But him being the old head and also him playing in an offense where they are very reliant on throwing the ball. They do not like to run the ball in Colorado's offense. His number's 310.5. Mm-hmm. And I think he's going more than this, win or lose.
Yeah, I like more than 310.5 yards, but I do think that if you are somebody who believes that Colorado could win this game or will win this game, that the demon square of 2.5 touchdown passes is very attractive because you're talking about somebody who probably is going to have to throw for at least 3 or 4 for them to win. To get that juiced value there on that square on what I think is probably going to come true, win or lose, seems to be a pretty attractive option.
Well, and the other thing for Colorado is they have such a hard time running the ball. Like, if they're getting it in the end zone, it is probably through the air. Like, even if they get down to the 5-yard line, like, I don't trust them to run it in. I would imagine you're letting Shedeur make a play. And remember, he threw 3 touchdowns to Travis Hunter alone last week
And
against
you
North
also have to
Dakota
take
State.
into account, Andy, that you can throw it to Travis Hunter 5 yards down the field and he can break a tackle and score too.
Exactly.
It's not just like beautiful poetic throws that pierce 30 yards of air. Like, you can throw something short to these dynamic athletes, because like, you can criticize Colorado for their lack of X and Y, but the one thing you can't say is that they don't have skill position talent at the receiver and quarterback position. And I think that no matter what you see from a Colorado team, unless they get matched up with a monster like they did against Oregon last year, that they're probably going to get theirs on offense to a certain degree in every game they play this year.
Yeah, and I think Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn are going to eat in most games. Let's move to Charlotte and let's talk Nico. So Nico, you've got a goblin of 1.5 passing touchdowns, a demon of 2.5 passing touchdowns. But here's my thing about that. You also have a demon of 0.5 rushing receiving touchdowns. And this is a guy that we saw in the bowl game against Iowa who's not afraid to run it on the goal line. I actually think his ability to score on the ground in the red zone may take away from his potential touchdown passes. So I actually think the rushing TD might be the safer way to go here versus the passing TDs.
You know, we were joking a little bit about the Mahomes comp with Raiola. Nico, I would say, is probably the most likely of all 4 of the quarterbacks that we're talking about from rushing a score here, right?
Yeah, he's always been a very willing runner, even when he was a very, very skinny high school player. And now he's a bigger guy. He's 6'6". He's bulked up to almost 220 pounds. And I think he likes it that way. I think he likes playing physically and he likes running the ball. But now I will point out, like, when Nico ran the ball against Iowa, he took yards that were obviously available. So he's got good instincts on that read option when he needs to give to the back, when he needs to keep. And so he's only going to keep if that defensive end crashes. And so it really will depend on what NC State does there. But then on the other side of the ball, Grayson McCall, this is a guy who ran a triple option based offense his first 3 years at Coastal Carolina. He can run the ball too. So, you got to worry about him running the ball, but 239.5 pass yards. Remember, he's got Casey Concepcion on his team. That's one of the best receivers in the country. So you've got the same Goblin and Demon TD squares, 1.5 for the Goblin, 2.5 for the Demon. I think the Demon may have to hit for these guys to win this game, though.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. And it is great because a lot of these squares just kind of mirror to how you believe the game is going to play out. Like, I think that, like, if you think that NC State is going to win, then you can find some attractive options there. If you think that, Colorado is going to win, I think you have some very attractive options up there. There's a lot to choose from here. And I'm liking a few of these.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm just liking the fact that we have some incredibly exciting quarterback matchups in week 2. Like, I've been dying to see Dylan Raiola against Shedeur Sanders. I've been dying to see Nico against a really good defense. I've been dying to see Grayson McCall at the power conference level. We get it all on Saturday.
Yeah, and best thing, Andy, we get to do it together.
That's right. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.